Let's talk about the Royal Rumble. Hello, breadfiesta here. In case you didn't know, I like professional wrestling. It's not just video games and anime. I also enjoy watching WWE. And this weekend, in fact, in 2 hours as of recording this, is the Royal Rumble, which is one of the most exciting events. The first event on the road to WrestleMania, the biggest show of the year for WWE. So I'm very timely in putting out this video, but I wanted to talk about it because in addition to watching professional wrestling, I also like to talk about it. So I'm going to do that. As of right now, there are 8 matches announced on the card, which there are some matches that are really conspicuously absent, but I'm going to talk about the ones that are announced. I'm going to say who I predict will win and what I think would help the feud, or how the feud should have gone, or how the feud should go. Just basically going to talk about what the road to WrestleMania should look like based on some of these matches. So let's do that. The first match that I'm going to talk about, and also likely the first match on the card and may actually be on the kickoff show, is Sheamus versus Chad Gable, or Shorty G, as he is unfortunately called. This match doesn't really have a whole lot of build to it. This is Sheamus's return. He just returned to the show, 3 weeks ago, I guess, where he kicked Chad Gable in the head, teasing like a face turn, but nope, not for Sheamus. And then the week after, Sheamus had an interview and Chad Gable beat him up. And then the week after that, so 2 days ago, the Friday, the go-home show before the Royal Rumble, Sheamus and Chad Gable weren't even on it. So the feud's a little bit cold. I predicted Chad Gable to win, mostly because I really like Chad Gable, and I think he needs a singles push. And beating Sheamus in his return match would be a great way to get that started. Honestly, like, Chad Gable has, they've been so start and stop with him. He had a really good showing in the King of the Ring, but on and off, he has just been like shoehorned into the tag division, which you'd think, like, with that reputation, at some point he would have a tag team championship run with Seth Rollins, but nope. So I think Chad Gable should be a single star and beating Sheamus, even if the feud continues by beating Sheamus, that's fine. But I think a good win here would be good for Chad, and that's all there really is to say about that one. I don't think no, it's not. I don't think they are afraid to have Sheamus lose in his return match, because they did to Liv Morgan. Arguably, Liv Morgan's not as big of a star as Sheamus, but Liv Morgan returned and lost in the awful Rusev feud, which Rusev, Bobby Lashley, and Lana and Liv, those are conspicuously absent from the card, or maybe not conspicuously. It's probably for the best. So that's what I think for that match. The next one, and I got a lot to talk about this one, is Roman Reigns versus King Baron Corbin. Because I think this feud has been going on for a long time, and Baron Corbin has been winning a lot. But I think what's missing from this, and I want to tie this in to the Intercontinental Championship that Shinsuke Nakamura has been holding hostage for a long time. He's defended it against like 2 people total throughout his entire run, and Shinsuke Nakamura versus Braun Strowman isn't even on the card. It has not been announced, so unless they sneak it in like they forgot about it, then Shinsuke is not defending his title again at the Royal Rumble. So he's been champion for like 7 or 8 months at this point, and he's a terrible champion. Let's just be honest. This championship run has been awful, because him just holding the title means that everybody else can't feud over anything that matters. Like, Sheamus versus Chad Gable is basically just another short joke. Roman Reigns versus Baron Corbin had the good aspect of like, oh, I'm the locker room leader. No, I'm the locker room leader. But they kind of just dropped that. They've been feuding, I guess, since Survivor Series. That feels like a long time. That feels like forever ago. But here we are. So I think what should have happened at some point to give this feud more like something to care about is I think at some point Shinsuke should have dropped the title, probably to like Mustafa Ali, because I know they had like a hot second feud that never went anywhere because Shinsuke doesn't give anybody title shots, and we're just okay with that, I guess. So I think Shinsuke should have dropped the title to Mustafa Ali, and then Mustafa Ali could have just quickly dropped it to Baron Corbin, and then Baron Corbin could be feuding with Roman for the Intercontinental title, and that would be great. They have to be so careful with Roman because Roman was booed so much before the cancer announcement, and then when he came back, he's been cheered. He's been very much like a top face, but they have to be so careful because if they put him into the world title feud too quickly or too haphazardly, even if he wins the Royal Rumble, which I think even now is too soon, then he's going to start getting booed again. So I think they got to be real careful. But I think Roman Reigns as Intercontinental Champion would still be okay with the crowd. I think that's really what should have happened. I think this should have been for the Intercontinental Championship. But it isn't. So I think I predicted Roman Reigns to win because this has got to stop. This feud cannot go on to WrestleMania. So we just it's got to be done here. And like I said, I don't think Roman Reigns is going to win the Royal Rumble, so I want to give him a good win here. That's my prediction. Next, I have Andrade Cien Almas defending the United States Championship against Humberto Carrillo, which Andrade is going to win. That's really it. Like, Humberto is still really new, and it's not like they're not. Well, they gave Ricochet the U.S. Championship, and he was really new. But I think Andrade, because he only just now won the title and just got off of that feud with Rey Mysterio, I think Andrade, there's value in him holding it, especially if he's going to actually defend the title, unlike Shinsuke. So this one's real straightforward, not much to talk about. I think Andrade Cien Almas is going to win. Zelina Vega is going to get involved. That's it. Maybe Rey Mysterio will get involved. Maybe Dominic will get involved. That would be that could be some interesting points to the match. But otherwise, if it is just on its face, Andrade versus Humberto, I don't care. That's it. All right, now we get to the main titles. First I had Bayley defending the SmackDown Women's title against Lacey Evans. And my prediction for the SmackDown title at WrestleMania is Bayley versus Sasha, because that's the biggest match that they could put on. The women's division, let's be honest, is garbage. They have not treated any of the women very well. And we'll get to that, especially on Raw. Like, I don't even know who's on Raw, to be completely honest, other than like Becky, Charlotte, and the Kabuki Warriors, because they don't feature anybody else. So, but on SmackDown, there is a little bit more. There are a few more people featured, but I still feel like the biggest matches they could do would be Bayley, Sasha, or some combination of those two and Alexa. But I think, so going off of my prediction of Bayley, Sasha, I think how that happens is Lacey Evans wins in this match tonight. I think Bayley needs to drop the title because Bayley's heel run has been awful. She has no personality. She's just mean wrestler, women's champion, Sasha's friend. That's her whole personality in 6 words. So if you take away any of those, like if you take away the first 2, then she's just mean wrestler. And that's not a personality. That nobody's going to care about that. So I think that Bayley should drop the title to Lacey, perhaps with Sasha shenanigans. Like Sasha somehow costs Bayley the match, and that causes some tension between them. And I think that at Elimination Chamber, Lacey should drop the title. So Lacey will just have a short run, which will be fine because just a short little face run will be good for her. But I think Lacey should drop the title not back to Bayley, but to Sasha, so that Sasha is the champion going into WrestleMania, and which would drive Bayley insane because she wanted to be the champion. She thought she was the best champion, and now Sasha, who was lurking in the shadows and manipulating her like always, is the champion. So this will give Bayley some opportunity to figure out who she is independent of Sasha. Although feuding with Sasha is not really the best way to do that, but you gotta start somewhere. I think Bayley's got to turn back face. The heel turn is not working, and this is how I see that happening. So Lacey Evans to win at the Royal Rumble is my prediction. Next, I have The Fiend versus Daniel Bryan in a strap match for the Universal title. And it's The Fiend, isn't it? Like, that's... like, there was that tease of Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. That could still happen without the title, actually. So, sure, why not? I think The Fiend will retain. I think if The Fiend is going to lose, it can't be in a singles match. Unless it's against somebody like Brock or Undertaker, or Roman. But I think if The Fiend is going to drop the title, it's going to be in some sort of scramble match like Elimination Chamber, where The Fiend can get screwed. But I think... yeah, I still think The Fiend is going to retain, and probably retain either until Elimination Chamber or until WrestleMania. I don't know who takes it off The Fiend, but it just doesn't feel like it's Daniel Bryan to me. So that's all I really have to say about that. Next match I have Becky Lynch defending the Raw Women's title against Asuka. And I got a lot of thoughts and plans for this one, because I think that I got this idea in my head of this wonderful match of the Raw Women's title. For the Raw Women's title, here's my prediction for WrestleMania for the women's matches. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So you've got the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal, which is just everybody who's not on the main card. And I think that is actually going to be won by Charlotte. I think she's probably going to win by, I don't know, hiding on the outside until Liv Morgan thinks she's won, and then Charlotte will toss her over. Because that's original and hasn't happened for the last 2 years. I think that the women's tag team titles will be defended, and I think that will be... I'll talk about that later. I think Bayley versus Sasha for the SmackDown titles. I think the Raw women's title will be defended. I think, here's my prediction. Asuka will be the champion, and she will defend against Kairi Sane. So let me explain how to get there. And then the last match would be Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey. I think that doesn't need to have a title attached to it to be like a bomb match. So those are my predictions. But so I'm predicting Asuka to win tonight because she just has to. Becky's championship her run has been very long, and I think it's time for it to end. And I think that she should not beat Asuka. As just like she got cocky, basically. she knew that she was up against the odds against Asuka, and then she loses because Asuka is just as dangerous as when she won against Becky last year. Plus, she's got Kairi in her corner. So, I think what'll happen is, yeah, Asuka will win despite Kairi being in her corner, because there'll be some shenanigan, like maybe Asuka will go to spit the green mist and Becky will duck and it will hit Kairi or something to just, again, there's got to be that tension between the two. So regardless, Asuka will win and beat Becky, otherwise clean, which will leave Becky dejected. And then Asuka will have the title, as well as the tag team titles with Kairi, and it will be a whole, like, you know, Asuka and Kairi are getting kind of like against each other, which allows for a Kairi face turn in the future. And also having the tag team champions feud with each other is something that WWE likes to do quite a bit. So I think that will happen. Asuka and Kairi will lose the tag team titles, let's just say to the Iconics. Why not? And then Kairi, who now is free from Asuka because they don't have the titles holding them together, Kairi will turn face, go back to her pirate persona, and see, you know, Asuka's treasure, the Raw Women's Championship, and she will want to plunder that. So that sets up Asuka versus Kairi, which I think would be a phenomenal match for WrestleMania. So that's how I see that getting there. Becky, meanwhile, will be dejected. And I think wanting to still prove that she's the man, her only real option then is to challenge Ronda at WrestleMania. And so whether that happens, you know, independent of a title, or if my Asuka Kairi thing doesn't work out, then Asuka would then drop it to back to... Well, let me think about that one when I talk about the Women's Rumble. But there's a few different ways we could get to Becky versus Ronda. But that is... I feel like I want Asuka versus Kairi for the Raw title to happen, so that's what I'm going to predict. And maybe I'll be disappointed. Maybe. Let's talk about the Women's Rumble then, because while I'm on that train of thought, we did like a bunch of different predictions here. So I predicted my number 1 and number 2. I think Charlotte is going to start the match, because her lasting a long time would be a good accolade to throw onto her pile. And then she'll probably... I predicted number 2 would be either the return of Ruby Riott, who would get a big pop and would be a good kind of person to stand across from Charlotte Flair. Or number 2 would be like Bianca Belair, somebody else who would get... basically somebody who would be cheered more than Charlotte is who I think is going to be number 2. Though I might be wrong in that. They might put out somebody like Sarah Logan so that Charlotte would be the one more cheered. That seems more like WWE. But again, my predictions stand. I think we also predicted, you know, because it's hard to predict a single winner, so I predicted 2 people. One of them I predicted was Alexa Bliss, and Alexa winning goes more towards my concept of Asuka versus Kairi for the Raw title, because Alexa could do something like use her Royal Rumble opportunity to give her and Nikki a tag team title shot, just to kind of cement her as just like, okay, Alexa Bliss is definitely a face right now. There's no shenanigans happening. And then Alexa and Nikki would challenge the Iconics and obviously win at WrestleMania. So that's one possibility. The other possibility, which is maybe more likely, is I think Ronda might return and win the Royal Rumble. I know lots of people are predicting Shayna to win, Shayna Baszler, but where is the clues? Where are the hints for that? They haven't mentioned Shayna on Raw or SmackDown since Survivor Series. Shayna has been largely absent from NXT, as I'm aware. I don't watch NXT anymore. So I think Shayna winning would not be good. Honestly, especially because like as much as people think like Becky versus Shayna would be like a fire match at WrestleMania, people seem to forget how much they don't like Shayna matches. So, and that Becky Lynch also isn't that like exciting of a wrestler in the ring. So I don't think Shayna's gonna win. I think if Shayna wins, that's a big mistake. I think Ronda is more likely to win if she does return. Because then that would set up, even if Asuka were to win the title at Royal Rumble, Becky, seeing that Ronda has the WrestleMania opportunity, that would light a fire under Becky to again prove that she's the man. She would win the title back from Asuka and then go on to challenge Ronda. So that's perhaps a more likely scenario than Alexa winning and using it for a tag title shot. But it's really hard to predict who's going to win the Women's Royal Rumble because the women's division, as I mentioned before, hot garbage. They still cannot do more than one women's feud per show, which is so bizarre. Like, Raw is 3 hours long, and you can't have more than one women's match. Like, it's bonkers. Or more than one women's feud, rather. I predicted that Mandy and Sonya will break up in the Women's Royal Rumble. I think that they're done. Obviously, again, the tag team division for the women is not a real thing. So, Fire and Desire were going to break up because of Otis. And that's just how it is. It gives Sonya and Mandy something to do. So that's how I think the Women's Royal Rumble will go. And then the Men's Royal Rumble. Obviously, we know number one is going to be Brock Lesnar because he boiled that. I think number two will be Kofi, because that would be just a fire way to start the Men's Royal Rumble, is having Brock and Kofi apart from each other, to give Kofi like that opportunity to redeem himself for the world title run and to prove like, all right, it's time to like get serious again. It's the road to WrestleMania. Because in the past Royal Rumbles we watched I guess 2 of them. The New Day have been clowns and wastes of time. So now that Kofi has been a world champion and has proved like he's not that, maybe he should like keep that up and, you know, fight Brock Lesnar like on an even sort of level, not get eliminated in 7 seconds. And that's how I see that starting. I think the winner, again, I'm predicting 2 winners. I think Drew McIntyre, something just screams to me that Drew McIntyre is going to win. They've been like edging on turning him face, which is what you need to win a Royal Rumble, is being a face, or being Brock Lesnar, who was my other prediction, because you can't bet against Brock Lesnar. Basically, they are so keen on giving Brock Lesnar accolades. Like, they just did it with Money in the Bank last year, which Brock Lesnar doesn't need Money in the Bank. He will get a title shot anyway. So, but they might still do it because it would be funny. So, yeah, I think Brock Lesnar's the safe bet. I think Drew McIntyre would be interesting, because then you could have Drew versus Brock at WrestleMania, and finally end Brock's career, or at least this run, because Brock Lesnar has been pretty much a constant in us watching over the last 3 years, and even though he's been a constant as a champion, he's not been a constant presence, and having wrestlers holding titles hostage is something I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a fan of Brock doing it. I'm not a fan of Shinsuke doing it. Really not even a fan of The Fiend doing it. But it's got to end. The titles have to be more present and more readily defended, and Drew McIntyre winning the Royal Rumble is the start to that. Or at least it's the start to us trying that again, because it didn't work with Seth Rollins. So my bonus prediction is, and this is just something I want to happen because I would pop hard, is John Cena surprise entry. If those trumpets blare, I will get out of my seat and just start cheering, because that would just be fun. I know people are thinking like Edge is going to return. I know Booker T was teasing a return. I don't like that they've announced, 27 of the entrants in the Royal Rumble. So there's only 3 spots left. And those 27 is just Raw and SmackDown, so no NXT. Whereas the Women's Rumble is going to be chock full of NXT, because there's enough women in NXT to be a majority of the women in the match. So, yeah, if Edge is one of them, cool. John Cena would be great. Adam Cole would be cool as well. I just like Adam Cole. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. Which is, again, a shame that I don't watch NXT anymore, because something had to give. I only got so much time in the day. So that's me talking about the Royal Rumble. Really, it was just because I was so mad about Shinsuke that I really wanted to, like, make the Intercontinental, title scene a little bit better. I also had these cool ideas of, again, so yeah, my WrestleMania would include that Women's Battle Royal, Asuka versus Kairi for the title, Bayley or Sasha defending against Bayley for the title, Iconics defending against Alexa and Nikki, and then Becky versus Ronda, which could have Shayna interference. That would be a fine way to use Shayna. But yeah, it's just a real shame, because I do like Shayna matches. It's just the crowd gets so negative about them because they're not as exciting as anything else that happens on NXT, for example. And yeah, that's my talking about Royal Rumble. Thank you very much for listening. I have been breadfiesta, and I hope your day involves watching the Royal Rumble. Otherwise, I hope it goes exactly the way that you want it to.